Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Maiden, Voyage. So we had the privilege of being able to join the Inbound Conference, which is an annual conference that HubSpot puts on every year. And this year, like many other conferences in 2020, it was remote. It was all virtual, and it was different. This episode of Maiden Voyage, we're going to be talking about things we loved, maybe some things we didn't like, and some big takeaways that we had at Inbound 2020.
Women face unique challenges, from glass ceilings at work to everyday personal stressors.
The Maiden Voyage podcast covers it all, offering tips and tricks for overcoming your struggles.
While this lady-hosted podcast focuses heavily on women's issues,
it's relevant for anyone who values self-improvement, equality, and badass inspiration.
We all navigate this journey together. Welcome aboard.
So I'd like everyone to go around the room and tell me how many times you've been to Inbound. So I personally, this would have been, or was, it happened. So it was my fourth Inbound. Jen, how many have you been to?
This would have been my third Inbound already, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Carissa?
First.
Love it. Julie? 107?
I think it was my sixth.
Yeah.
Whoa, nice.
I think they're all kind of a blur.
Oh, great.
In the best way possible.
Yes. It was my sixth, but it was my third as like an official attendee, not a sponsor.
Interesting. Okay. So you spent a lot of time. For those of you who aren't familiar, Inbound is this like freaking giant conference that's held in Boston, which is where the HubSpot headquarters is. It's on the waterfront in Boston at the convention center. It is giant. I mean, like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know the actual, like probably 20,000.
Tens of thousands, like
tens of thousands.
15 to 20, I think usually.
20 feels good to me too. But there's a lot of people there. I mean, I've seen Michelle Obama speak. I have seen Judd Apatow. So, and they have all these great performers come in. Like, it is some like highbrow stuff, right? Janelle Monáe was there last year. I know you loved that.
Which I like. She didn't perform. She didn't sing. She had like a sit down talk, which is really neat.
But so they bring in some really highbrow people. And it is an opportunity to learn more about HubSpot, but also like level up your skills in sales, marketing, customer experience development, and just have a really great time. We have a lot of fun. It was virtual this year. But what Julie was talking about is there's like this giant floor. So you spent a lot of time on the convention center floor, like talking to people as they were moseying to and from sessions.
The last, I think, 3 years, I was at a sponsor booth. So at least half of my time at Inbound was on the floor talking to people about marketing and sales and their customer experience and how they're using HubSpot and how you can help them use HubSpot and those types of things. Last year in particular, all of my time was at the booth. So I didn't attend any sessions last year other than like keynotes and main stage type of stuff that I could get from the floor.
Right.
So it was nice to have access to the conference at like a different, like I was there to consume content, not to provide it.
Right. Yeah, a lot of pressure on the content providing. There's a lot of I've done that. I've worked conferences outside of Inbound. I've been going, like, it's high pressure. You're on all day. It's exhausting. Your feet hurt, your throat gets sore. Like, I always got sick after week-long conferences just because you're like burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, and it's like those long days too, right? Because it's never, it's that first day. And I always drive to Boston. So My big reflection this year was I usually have like a 3.5 to 4 hour drive into Boston to like ramp up and get ready for the conference. I have like a playlist that I listen to. It's like my pre-Inbound playlist. I stop on the way and I would like get snacks for people from my team who are flying in because I know they can have drinks and snacks and stuff like that. The BCEC only has Pepsi products. So if you are a Diet Coke drinker, it's not for you. So like I had kind of this ritual, right?
Yeah, routine.
right, so I'd ramp up, I'd be at the conference, you're on for 4 days, you do the whole thing, it's the song and dance, you have like the client dinners and the team dinners and like this, that, and the other thing. You're expecting that you're going to be awake from like 6 a.m. to probably 11 or midnight.
And there's no emails, there's no phone calls, there's no family time. Like you are go mode for 4 days.
In. Right. And then I would get like a 3 or 4 hour decompression on the way home where I would like probably not listen to music, or I might like call my sister and chat for a little bit while I'm driving down and things like that. Yes. And this year we really went from like Monday was a work day, Tuesday and Wednesday were conference days. We're still at your desk, so that like it's very compelling to try to do work and not fully focus on a conference. And then Thursday was a full work day. Mm-hmm. So while we did clear our schedules and move things around to attend a conference, you know, I think it was more challenging to set expectations for ourselves, but also with our clients to have more separation, like it were an in-person conference.
I would have definitely liked the morning of Thursday to like get myself back together, because I didn't ever lean fully into inbound. And I'm wondering if like this is what it's going to look like for virtual conferences moving forward. Like you said, I was at my desk, Slacks were coming in, emails were coming in. Like I'm the salesperson. Even at inbound, I make myself available for sales meetings. So I can step into the hallway and take a 15-minute sales call if I have to, or meet a client or a prospect for a sales call, which I love doing in person because I don't get a lot of that, you know, in years past. But it was very challenging to shut down work and lean into learning for 2 full days, at least for me.
In the middle of a week. I think if it had been like a Thursday, Friday or something like that, it may have been easier to say like, okay, we're out after Wednesday, we'll be back Monday.
That's an excellent point.
The timing was a little challenging. Like you got fully in work on Monday and then you tried to shut it off, and like that's a hard shut off, I think, for a 2-day conference. For 1 day, it's probably fine. But yeah, by the second day I was like, okay, I felt a little bit like it took me a day to get into conference mindset, but then also by the second day I was like, well, I need to get back into work mindset. So it's hard, but I'm glad that they did it. I think, you know, I have heard a lot of gripes about the platform that they built and the way it was executed. I know that there were some technical challenges and things like that. My expectation was that I was going to be getting like a whole bunch of Zoom links and I was going to be sitting on Zoom webinars. So the fact that it was actually an integrated platform with all of these things that had like the picture-in-picture functionality, I could throw stuff onto my TV if I wanted to. I actually was fairly impressed with that. It was more than I expected.
Agreed.
But I had very low expectations.
Same. I was expecting Zoom links and like emails with presentations being sent to you later, like that kind of vibe. I appreciated the effort they put into the platform. However, there was like it was almost like a gamification app. I don't know. Like it felt like a video game, the background.
Yeah, almost like games.
It kept moving. I needed a Dramamine. It made me physically ill to look at the website. Like I couldn't look at it. So I kept it in picture and on like the agenda, the calendar the whole time, because I like physically could not look at that screen.
Yeah. And I mean, you could totally understand the thought behind it, right? Like they're trying to give you some sense like you are in Boston, like being there, or that you're at least not in front of your TV or your computer or whatever. But that was also like, I think hard for me too. Also, I noticed, you know, throughout this experience, my computer, like my Mac has a lower RAM than I probably should have. And that's what also made the experience so difficult for me, is that whenever I would try to like drag the screen like over to my TV to try to like watch, it kept freezing. Like my computer physically couldn't, even after all other tabs and everything was shut down and I was just trying to run a single thing in Chrome. So it was just like, there was like a lot of anxiety involved in like, am I wasting my time on this? Like, should I be working instead? And ultimately I ended up working instead. And now that like things are going to be on demand, I'm going to be catching up. But I mean, total guys, like I watched 4 sessions and it was like kind of sad because I wanted to do more, but it's like my computer couldn't handle to do more. Like it's freezing.
I'm sorry you were having those technical difficulties, but I think that the value in that is, and what we didn't have in years prior, and I noted this in our company Slack channel, is that the opportunity to see more sessions is so much greater this year because you can go back and watch whatever you want. I love that.
So happy about that. I really am.
Yeah. And sometimes they post some recordings from sessions. Some of them are recorded live and then you can access them after. But most, like, they have a library of sessions in a way that it seems like an expectation to go back and watch things. So I love that.
Yeah. But it was totally hard to like turn off from like the conference mode like wasn't there like for me. But I did mention to you guys this prior, like this was my first like conference of anything. And so I was just like, I don't understand. I feel like it's Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm supposed to be working. I don't get what's going on. Like, why am I just watching stuff? So it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, it would have definitely been different if you were kind of like immersed in the experience. But I don't know. I think sometimes it's about just like setting good boundaries for yourself. I don't know. I get from your perspective, Jackie, you're like, I want to take in sales calls if they come in. But I was telling Carissa, I'm like, nope, inbound. I'm like in inbound mode for these 2 days because I just know what it's like to have all that content and be overwhelmed. And it's so hard to multitask. And when you are multitasking, you're actually not retaining the information that you're learning, which is kind of like defeating the whole point of attending the seminars, if that makes any sense to me. So like both days I did nothing but inbound. Like the second day, I wasn't really like digging any of the late afternoon sessions. So I kind of just like went through all my notes and then I wrote a blog about something like the second half of that day. But I was still in that inbound mindset the whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good.
I love that. And I think that's great. And we're very lucky that our agency fronted the money in this economy to say, we want you guys to lean in and learn. And, you know, I know we've all thanked, you know, Remington and Rachel for that, but the fact that like so many other businesses took this opportunity to say that there were a lot of people that like 65,000 registrants, I think. Like what? That's crazy. And I think there was a lot of learning to be had. So let's talk about that. So did anybody like take any juicy bits away? Like that they want to share? Because mine are very tactical. My takeaways were super tactical, which is not normally what I get at inbound. So what I'd love to hear is what was your strategy in the sessions that you selected? Because my strategy has been different over the years. And what did you take away from your strategy and like give me your top 2 amazing takeaways of what things you've learned?
So I definitely like leaned into things that I don't know as much about, instead of like things that I'm just super interested in. And sometimes those things can overlap, but like one that I have on my list to watch later is like the advanced LinkedIn ads. Like I love ads, like social ads and Google ads. I think it's super interesting. So I'm excited to watch that later. But also like I watched the Google Analytics one, like anything that's like really kind of analytics and technical SEO related. I love leaning into that stuff because I don't know as much about it, but it's super interesting. But seriously, one of the biggest takeaways was the concept. It was from one of the sessions. Maybe it was the content that sells one. You have to think of your content as your, like, especially like top of the funnel content when you're just starting to educate your potential like customer about your product. You have to think about it as your first form of customer service to them. And I was like, oh, because you're doing everything to just like educate them the best that you can, instead of like that's the problem with trying to sell someone something from the get-go when they know nothing about you and nothing about what you can give to them. Just trying to educate them with like literally no pitch. It's the first best form of customer service you can provide. And I loved that so much. So that says a lot about how your content should be and what you're.
That is so dynamic.
That's great. Yeah. That's like this, the other like adage in that you hear in like the content marketing space, like if your customers don't read your blog, it's not a very good blog. Hard truths.
Serve them up.
Yeah.
Is there one other thing, Krista, maybe you took away that you find you're gonna bring with you back into our day-to-day?
Well, I definitely tried to tune into some more content stuff because I want to learn more about that, and I just I told Julie this offline, but I felt like the like scientific sessions about like content, basically it's kind of like wrapping like consumer behavior into like what taps, like what like gets people's attention. And it just seems like such a simple thing, like, oh, you should write something that grabs someone's attention. But like whenever you're putting all these like instinctive like subconscious cues behind like what's ingrained into your content, like the difference between the word complimentary and free in an email subject line, stuff like that. Like I loved hearing that. That was a really good session. So yeah, that was two big takeaways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Consumer psychology was my favorite marketing course in college. I took 2 of them. Anywho, okay. Jen, why don't you share with us some of your takeaways and your favorite sessions?
Sure. I think when I first started coming to Inbound, like for listeners that don't know, like I'm a content marketer, so I do a heck of a lot of writing. And the first year I came, I was like, I need to just watch all of the content sessions. Like, that's it. I'm not going to waste my time on anything else. And I would see things that interested me. And like, oh, here's like one about sales. Here's one about this. But I was like, no, I'm so focused on content. I came here because my boss is paying for me to improve my content, and I'm not going to stray. And then the second year I came, I realized that was dumb. Because even though I do concentrate in content, it's good to have some diversity and to be able to apply concepts, like you were saying, like the psychology of buying. I could attend a sales session that talks about that and apply that to my content. So this year I was kind of like not reckless, but I was just very like trusting and whimsical, where I was like, if this looks like it's interesting, I'm going to attend it. Because I don't want to attend one right off the bat that kind of looks like it's boring or not going to be useful to me, because guess what? It's probably going to be boring or not useful to me. So I sat in on a bunch of sessions this year. I did like email marketing ones, SEO. I did like sales oriented sessions, customer service, like I dabbled in everything. I would say one session that I sat in, and if anyone's listening that attended Inbound and wants to go back and watch one of them, it was called the End of Technical SEO, and it was by a guy named Dale Bertrand. I think that's how you say his last name. Sorry if I butchered that. But he talked about the concept of mission-driven SEO, which this is the first time I kind of ever heard that like trigger word. But he talked about brands that aren't necessarily going after keywords anymore. They're sticking so true to their mission that they're talking about tough topics and becoming industry leaders because of their voice around topics. And that is getting them more shares and more engagement, which is actually fueling their SEO beyond just like keywords.
Right, because they're not trying to win a war. They're uniquely entering a new space from an SEO perspective. Is that like the thought behind it?
They're talking about maybe not necessarily always like tough subjects, but so I'll just like, they didn't talk about this as the example, but I'll just like throw one out there. So like, you know that I like Lush Cosmetics. I've talked about them in general a few times on this podcast with their mission to like fight against animal cruelty. They're big on like eliminating deforestation to acquire the materials to make their lotions and products and all that stuff. So obviously Lush isn't trying to rank for like deforestation. But if they wrote about topics about that and became like industry leaders around because of their passion, right? So people are like, this is kind of a little like controversial that they're talking about deforestation. It's not really helping them sell their product per se. You know what I mean? There's no like.
But it is talking perhaps to the community of humans who are buying their products because of the mission.
Yes, so they're earning the trust of like the type of consumers, the type of personas that they're acquiring. And it was just this weird, like, I don't even want to call it a tactic, because it was just being genuine to your brand and your voice.
Authentic, right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to play it backwards now for you. This is how I do things. So like, they are not going to outrank Maybelline on lotion. Ever. They're just not, for right, like Maybelline as a major, L'Oreal, whatever. They're not going to outrank L'Oreal on their face cream.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where that they're flipping the switch and saying, we're not going to outrank L'Oreal on face cream, but we are going to scream about what we're passionate about, rank high for that, and then pull customers in the funnel that way.
Yeah, well, and not necessarily like from a ranking game. They're like, we're going to scream about these things that are important to us, and through like sharing and backlink building and stuff like that, he's saying that that's how they're getting into the technical SEO game beyond just like going after keywords strictly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That totally makes sense, because like if you're, as a consumer, if you're searching for top makeup brands that are sustainable, you know somebody's written a blog about it, and that's how you get those backlinks.
Yeah.
By landing yourself in a roundup. Like, I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah, it really got me excited, and just kind of like thinking in general, which maybe we can like chat about offline, for ways that we could even integrate that in our own brand at Impulse. And for listeners listening, that if you have core values that you're really passionate about, maybe this is a time to branch out and like write about a topic that maybe you haven't covered before, and start really like getting a foothold on your voice there. But yeah, the talk really got me amped. It was pretty exciting. And another one that I had really enjoyed was that sales one that I attended, that it was kind of about like psychology behind sales. And it talked about applying like cognitive behavioral therapy to sales, which I just find fascinating in general, that it's kind of combining, psych and sales, because that's, again, what it is about at the end of the day, is understanding the consumer. But this was almost from a perspective of how to deal internally with your sales team, if you were a sales manager, to work with your sales people who are resistant or like struggling, and to talk them through it. So even though that didn't really help me necessarily as a writer, I just found it interesting, and I jotted down like a few cognitive distortions and concepts of just she talked about, we're all about setting like SMART goals at work. You're like, oh, like set SMART goals. But she said at the end of the day, it's important for you to set meaningful, purposeful, like personal goals beyond just like these SMART goals, because you need to feel fulfilled in your home life before you have enough to pour into the cup of your like work passion. Mm-hmm. And so the talk was just inspiring overall to me. And that was a talk by Carol Mahoney, if anyone wants to go back and listen to that.
Totally gonna have to watch that.
Did they talk about like the alligator brain?
No, what's that?
Now, I have a book for you to read about. It's this guy, he's very controversial, but he talks about like sales and like how to win at any sales meeting by using psychology, like the alligator brain versus the crocodile brain, which is like two parts of your brain. And like, it's very cool. I'll share that with you. It's a very cool book. You got to get it on audiobook, because this dude, like, he like hollers, like he's got a voice, like that animates the book. So like you feel like you're, he's good. He's a little controversial, but he's good.
That's fun. But yeah, like you were saying, ladies, I was just going to say real quick, I'm so excited that we can go back and watch these now, because there are so many that I didn't even get to attend and anything like that, but fun year.
So good. So good.
What'd you do? What'd you get, Julie?
Ooh, well, so one of the interesting things about being on the partner side of inbound is we, as a business, often want to react and respond to a lot of things like as they're happening or right away. So some of my quote unquote time at inbound was actually spent creating some content for Impulse Creative about some of the newest features and announcements from inbound. So that was a big part of my week, in addition to sessions. It was probably about half of my conference time. So I do want to talk about some of the product updates. I definitely think the HubSpot Spotlight this year is worth not just a watch, but also a rewatch, because it was very subtle. And it was well produced, and I really enjoyed it. It was entertaining to watch, but it was very easy to miss things that were actually really, really cool product updates. They were just kind of folded in really nicely. But a few things that we're super, super excited about from it, custom objects in HubSpot. So HubSpot CRM historically was really limited in terms of the objects or databases it held, right? There were contacts, there were companies, and then there were deals. And then like tickets and service was an object also. Okay, we'll count that one. It was and it wasn't. With custom objects in HubSpot, you can basically build anything and associate it across that contact, company, deal spectrum. So if you're a business that has multiple locations, for example, like I'm an Orange Theory fitness girl. I love to go to Orange Theory Fitness. I visit 4 locations and kind of cycle between them. Not saying that they use HubSpot CRM at all, but in a CRM, they could be tracking that and saying like, hey, here are the locations that this contact has checked into. And that's not something that was possible before. And that has huge implications, not for just for understanding contacts, companies, and deals, but also for reporting and for getting different aspects of your team, like an account team together on an account, things like referral partners and stuff like that. Huge, huge, huge. The other thing that I'm really excited about for a lot of my clients is non-marketable contacts. So historically, we have this situation where we'll get contacts in our database who don't want to receive emails. So they opt out, or maybe they've not provided a great email address and they unsubscribe. And they bounce rather. We don't want to delete them from HubSpot because there's good information about them. Maybe there's someone who we've even spoken to on the phone, but doesn't want to receive email. Well, in HubSpot, we're paying for that contact, even though we can't email them historically. And with non-marketing contacts, that kind of comes off the table. And you can, starting, I think in late October, you'll be able to mark certain contacts in your database as non-marketable, and you won't be able to email them. You won't be able to, send them batch emails and things like that, but they can live in your database and you can continue tracking them and storing data around them, which is particularly helpful if you're using things like the HubSpot traffic analytics and sources report to see like your session to contact rates. How many leads do I generate from X? Well, you can see that, you could always see that, but if you were deleting those contacts from your database, those numbers would actually go away. So I'm really excited for that about some of my clients who've been very budget minded in terms of keeping their database slim. There's also a whole new like Sales Hub, enterprise, everything. I don't even think we should go into the details of that on this call because it's so much. But it's really, really cool. Custom objects is part of it, but there are a whole host of other updates. I think the really cool thing for iOS users, sorry, Jackie, is the HubSpot keyboard. So there's an alternate keyboard for iPhone and I guess iPad, I don't know, where you can, it has some of your HubSpot sales features right in it. So if you're someone who is on the go, or maybe just like, you tend to email more from your phone than your desk. I'm better at emailing from my phone than my desk, for example. You can have that feature experience there. So maybe it'll be the thing that finally gets Jackie into the Apple ecosystem.
I was just going to say that maybe this and Peloton are the 2 reasons I need an iPhone.
Oh, yes. Well, as a quick aside, once upon a time, Jackie was having some computer problems. And I said, Jackie, I can fix that for you. And I sent her to the Apple website.
No, she legit was like, go to your browser. Like, I thought she was helping me fix a problem on my computer. She's like, go to your browser. And I'm like, okay. And she said, type in apple.com. And then I did. And I was like, oh.
Sometimes you just have to be a punk.
I was like, explicit words, not okay.
It's out of pure love. I do want to touch on just 2 other things I'm really excited about. Put that away for another day. The new custom report builder, I've actually had a chance to take for a spin while it was in beta in some accounts. Super cool, awesome, wonderful. Yay, I like it. So give that a try. I think it is, so it's in an open beta now. So if you are interested in that custom report builder that gives you access into new ways to build reports, you can do things like has submitted a form with a name containing a word. So if you're someone who uses a lot of forms in HubSpot and you thought you'd be able to like search, like I want anyone who submitted a services form and I have 15 of them. Well, you used to have to do 15 criteria in a list to get that. Now you can say contains services. So if you're interested in that, contact HubSpot support or your HubSpot customer success manager I can get you into the beta, which is awesome. And then we are refreshing the partner directory, which as a partner, I'm really excited about. We're making sure the reviews are nice and fresh in there. That we are, I think they're building out the ability to like rate partners on different criteria, not just an overall rating. Super excited for that. There's so many solution partners now, and it's such a good resource for finding good partners. But this kind of multifaceted review structure should be really good.
I think the moral of the story, if you caught any of that, and Julie, thank you so much for digging into those features.
So many things. Watch
So
the
many
keynote
things.
again.
Right. A, watch the keynote again. B, if you're not a HubSpot user, you have no idea what we're talking about, like get a hold of us. We will help you figure out if any of the tools, current or new, are a good solution for you, as well as if you are a current HubSpot user, let's talk about how we can level up your workspace with all these great new tools. So exciting. For me as a salesperson, that contact tier thing is it's going to eliminate this barrier of entry where people have like hundreds of thousands of contacts that they don't want to scrub, but they want to bring over, but they don't want to pay for. Like, it's amazing. There's so much.
Even customers, right? People say, well, I'm never going to mass email my customers. I don't want them as marketable contacts, but I don't want to put them in HubSpot. But if they do convert on something, I need to know that they're my customer. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
They definitely leveled up. They leveled up. And again, very discreetly in the presentation, which is not like what they normally do. Normally when they announce new features, it is like a song and dance up on stage and they're like, kapow, look at this, kapow, look, like it's a very animated presentation normally. So Julie's spot on when she said it was like layered in with other really great bits and a great presentation overall. Dharmesh and Brian, as always, killed it. So I'll just very quickly share some of my takeaways. Like I said, they were super tactical. Like I feel like such a nerd. But I learned how to use Google Slides better. And I'm like so excited
I need the session name for this, Jackie.
So I learned.
You must know.
It was crazy. So it was by a company called Bright Carbon, and they create presentations. So they were very, very mildly pitching their own products. Half the presentation, I will say, was like dad humor and like, well, when you're doing, is like, but I did these two things that I took away are going to literally change presentation life for us internally. I think, and for myself personally, you can morph your slides. So think about a timeline. You're putting a timeline up on a slide and in a presentation, and you're saying like, start to finish, this is what the project's going to look like. Okay, great. Morphing the slide would be then showing the entire timeline and then zooming in on one piece. And then the next, zooming in on the next piece and the next piece. So it's seamless. It doesn't seem like you're transitioning into slides. You're moving next, but you're morphing this giant timeline into these smaller pieces so the viewer can see exactly what you want them to see in the moment, so that you're all looking at the same thing in the presentation and you're all focusing on the same thought at one time. Because when you show a big piece of content like that, eyes are everywhere, right? Like nobody's looking at the same thing. So it's a way to control the content that you're delivering, and just also really freaking cool. So morph.
Is it like Prezi? Have you ever used Prezi?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, Prezi is kind of like that where it's you're on a plane and you can pick points and like zoom in, and it looks almost like you're doing like an animated project.
So it doesn't move like that, but it's not animated.
Okay.
It's just, it glides. I don't know. It was really cool.
I have to watch it.
Really cool. And then the second thing, this one is dope AF. Did you know that you can create, we have to say AF in my house because I have a toddler. She's going to start saying AF, but it's better than her saying the 4-letter word.
I mean, I think cursing toddlers is adorable, but that's because I don't have one.
Hey, when they go to daycare and say shit, and then you have to talk to the teacher about why your kid's saying shit all the time.
It's just a word.
Shit,
It's just a word.
I guess that's a problem.
I know. I always joke that like my kid's going to teach everyone, and someone has to teach everyone how to use the F word properly. And if it's my daughter, then so be it.
I think that's a strong and powerful woman. I'm here for it.
Okay, so back to
dope AF. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Oh my God. Okay, so did you know that you can create sections in your presentation?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. You can
I'm
create
leaning on that one. What?
You can create sections. Okay, then it gets, let me level in for you. It gets better. So not only can you create sections, but you can insert what's called a zoom. And he was really funny. He's like, not a Zoom link, not a camera zoom. It's like a Zoom feature that is under, so you go into the presentation, you go to insert, you go to zoom, okay, once you've created your sections, okay, then you can add in a section. So pretty much what happens is you have an agenda slide. Your agenda slide becomes an interactive link. And when you click 1 on the agenda, it goes to section 1. And then you go through the 4 slides in section 1, comes back to the agenda screen. Next step.
Shut the front door, Jackie.
I was like running around the house. I was like, what? Our audit presentations are going to be transformed by this. I know.
So this is the part of the podcast I feel when everyone realizes Julie and Jackie are older millennials.
I'm just saying.
I didn't know any of this, but
yeah, I didn't know that either.
But like, we're so hype about this. It's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you guys are.
Not only did I learn how to do Google Slides, I took notes on a sheet of freaking paper about how to do Google Slides. That's how old I am.
But why did you take notes on a paper? You have a special paper.
I have my special paper, but it was up in my office, and I was watching this while I was eating lunch in my kitchen, and I grabbed it, and it just happened. It's fine. So
okay, it was a moment.
It was just one moment in time. Yeah, no.
3-ring binder notebook loose leaf paper. If you are just listening and you are not watching the video of this, I need you to know Jackie somewhere in her house has a ream of 3 loose leaf 3-ring binder paper. I don't even think she has a binder. She just has the paper.
Back to school,
probably from college.
No, these are my look.
You bought that as an adult?
I didn't buy that.
You know what I need? Some loose leaf.
Did they go in a binder?
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Have a folder? Put it in a folder?
I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm not going to show you.
Okay, maybe take a picture with your phone.
No, I'm not going to show you anything. Thank you very much. But this, it's funny because like Jen, I have over the years morphed how I handle inbound, because it is a lot of information. And I very much like you, Jen, the first year I went, I was like, must learn everything about selling in HubSpot, right? Like a robot, must sell HubSpot. And the first probably year and a half, and then halfway through my second year, I was like, this information I have learned. I need to now branch out from what I know to learn more. And then the other year or so, I started going to SEO and marketing and trying to level up the products, if you will. Like, I work for an agency that sells marketing retainers and and website development. I need to learn more about marketing retainers and HubSpot and website development so that I can then be better at my job, not from a tactical selling point of view, but from I want to know more about what my colleagues do so that I can pitch better service offerings and solutions to prospects. So that's how I flip the switch in how I go to inbound. And then last year, I only went to quote unquote motivational, self-learning, coaching. Like, I was like, I want to be a manager one day, right? Aspiring to be a manager. It's from Grown Ups, no, right? Yeah. Trudy, go ahead, Trudy, with your bad self. And so I started going to those. So this year I went backwards and I was like, I want to learn how to do shit that I don't know how to do again. And this changed my life, y'all. Google Sheets was a win, and I'm going to change all your lives with it as well.
First presentation.
I'm ready
for all these new things.
So good.
I already found it. I already bookmarked it. We're going to watch it this weekend. We're going to have some like edutainment time. We're going to learn how to do a wicked Google Slides.
So like, here's the funny thing is that I found value in this, and I was hoping someone like my friend Julie here will take action, because I still don't want to go in and do it, but I think it's really cool that we can, and I think we should. So,
Well, who's working on an audit presentation right now, Jackie?
this girl, which is so
So
frightening.
which girl's gonna have to put it?
I know. I'm gonna put it to work. I'm gonna take the beautiful PowerPoint presentation design that our designer has made, and I'm gonna level it up, and I'm gonna morph stuff, and I'm gonna zoom stuff, and I'm gonna make a section. It's gonna be great.
More zoom section. I like it.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway all of us had was we learned stuff, right? Great. The juice that you drink, whether remotely or in person, gets you so excited to return back to your desk, this year, back to your desk, back to your office, and like change the way you think about your job, the industry you work in, the way you're helping your clients, the way you affect your clients. Like that's my biggest takeaway from HubSpot and Inbound every year is it is my moment where I know no matter how I feel about where I am in my career or my job at the moment, I'm going to leave so excited to get back and take action. And that's the stuff we can't let go of, right? That's the stuff that like we need to go into the next 3, 6, 9 months with our clients and internally and say, now we're excited. There's these new things. Like, how are we going to make an impact on everyone else with what we've learned?
I have so many plans for custom objects. It's not even funny.
Oh, right.
Feel excited about it. And I told everyone I've ever met in my professional career, I wanted to talk to everyone about it after I learned about it. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I want to know more, especially like previous colleagues that I've worked with at like other companies. They're like, oh, I want to know more. I'm like, cool. So my agency wrote up this really fantastic like article and there's videos and like, you just need to watch it all. And there's all these ideas and like, let me know if you ever want to talk about it. Cause like, I'm here.
We'll get you in touch with Jackie. She'll tell you something. It's great. No, I'm really excited to help our clients put some of this new stuff into action to, continue spreading the word. Just like doing good marketing. Every year I feel like that's the biggest thing after I'm like, yeah, let's like do some good marketing, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thanks for listening. Again, if you have any questions about Inbound, the conference, HubSpot as a service offering, we are here for it. Get in touch with us. Let us help you level up and tune in next time.
Sadly, that'll do it for this week's episode of Maiden Voyage. We'd like to thank you, our amazing listeners, because let's face it, lady life is hard. It's incredible how much we accomplish every day, and we all deserve awards just for existing. If you're watching the show, make sure that you subscribe, click on that thing for instant notifications, speak your mind in the comments, and share us with your fellow Voyagers.